This is how to get the perfect crispy skin on your fish at home. Now, the most important thing with fish is making sure that your pan is the right temperature. So if it's too cold, your fish is going to stick. If it's too hot, your skin is going to burn before the rest of the flesh cooks perfectly. This is sea bass. It's got a beautiful skin. Typically, this is actually what we call a round fish. So that's like salmon, mullet, got one central bone that runs down the middle, and they've also got rib bones as well. So we'll get about 4 or 5 portions out of this fish. Just portion it neatly. The belly bits are a little bit harder to cook. You have to play and manipulate them a little bit around because obviously that thin bit is going to cook very differently to that thick bit. So when you're asking for it, or choosing your portions at the fish shop, try and get something that's nice and even because I can pretty much tell that is just going to cook so much more evenly than that. In order to get a crispy skin, what you want is you need the meat to be thick enough for you to be able to get a caramelization on that skin without the fish overcooking. So if you go for a really thin, tiny bit of fish, it's going to be really, really difficult for you to get that perfect caramelization and also get it cooked. So try and get something with a good bit of weight to it. So I'm going to show you a little technique here. So this is just a normal cast iron pan. And I've just put a little bit of fine salt in there, and I'm just going to bring it to the boil. So if you can imagine if you cooked an omelette in there or any sort of eggs, it'd stick really aggressively to the base of that pan. So principle with this is you can pretty much turn any pan into a non-stick pan just by heating up to a high point a little bit of salt. Yeah, I absolutely recommend going to a fishmonger or a good supplier. So look, we see the salt's just started to caramelize. That'll basically be ready now. Trick to getting your fish super, super crispy is just take a clean cloth. We use microfibers in the restaurant just for fish. Get your skin super dry, and you can leave it in the fridge. I've actually seen people use a hairdryer on it before. You can leave it in the fridge like this, and then you'll get like a glass skin. Caramelize that salt, and then just discard that. You're going to get a really nice non-stick layer now on this pan. If you want to cook fish and you don't think you've got the best pan for it, this is just to demonstrate basically any pan you've got is going to do, as long as you've got a bit of salt. Most people, hopefully, have a bit of salt to hand. Obviously, that pan now is really, really hot, so we're just going to let it cool down a little bit, but not way too much. Whilst we do that, we're just going to prepare what is a really simple sauce. You always see people making a pan sauce after a steak, but you can do it the same way with fish, and it's super, super delicious because you've got brown butter in there. We're going to put a little bit of garlic, a little bit of caper, a little bit of anchovy. So every single thing that you want with fish is going to be in there, just to give it a really nice umami. This is called, traditionally, I think it's called something like an Admiral sauce. So I believe it's what they used to cook for the chief honcho on naval vessels. So lots of parsley. The other thing that we're going to use as well is a load of really good quality sherry vinegar. But if you can't get sherry vinegar, you can use a red wine vinegar, or maybe a really nice balsamic will probably work, but you want the vinegar for sweetness. Just going to zest a little bit of lemon. Don't forget the little nubbin at the bottom. Importantly as well, you're only taking off the zest. It should still look yellow. If you go too far and it looks white, then you get a bitterness in it, which is what you don't want. So let's just microplane a little bit of garlic. All the mise en place, as we say, is ready for the sauce when we're going to need it, because the difference of steak and fish is a lifetime, really. A second makes a massive difference with fish. What I'm going to do with this fish, fairly controversially, I'm not going to season the skin. I'm going to season the flesh. On most oily or predatory fish, there's a membrane on the outside of the fish. So you've got to basically get high enough heat so the membrane renders out, but not too high, and cause the whole fish to stick or come off the flesh. We've got our seasoned fish. What we're going to do is just lay it into the hot pan and apply a good amount of pressure. The outside of the fish sticks to the pan, and then the membrane is rendered down by the heat. And by just putting this a little bit of pressure, it stops that skin from snapping back straight away. You'll feel it in about 10 seconds. The fish is going to relax, and that's that membrane breaking. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take it off, and you're going to allow it to sit for just a little bit of time, and then you've got a foolproof way to get crispy skin. And I'm just going to gently peel off the skin And you will need to assist it a little bit, maybe. So that is how I know that's going to be a banging bit of fish. So now you can actually work the opposite. Get your pan nice and hot. Get a good bit of oil in there. Now, lay it away from there. And again, just apply a little bit of pressure. I started it high. That's the skin making contact with the oil, being like, right, okay, no stick. Definitely not going to be sucked now at all. But then I'm going to reduce the heat. Now what we want now is, it is quite a critical way, because you want to get that perfect skin with no patches on it. But the fish is going to cook super quickly. We can already see the outsides of the fish going white around here. And the internal serving temperature of this fish, we want at probably about 44 degrees. You can see it's perfectly pliable, no stick whatsoever. And I've just agitated it, so it was laying this way, and now I've just turned it that way. So now I know that any of those little dots, or any little patches that won't hit the first way on the pan, are going to be hit the second way. Butter, as we know, is a really good way to reduce the heat in the pan. Oh, look at that. So crispy already. Right, so I can see it's getting nice and golden brown. I'm actually just going to take that off the heat. We've already got the crispy skin, but now what we want is that flesh to cook perfectly at the same time. And sea bass is a funny one. You'll probe this now, it'll be on, 8 degrees. Flip it over, you let it rest for a second under the hot lights and it'll be overcooked. Probably one of the trickiest fish to cook. So what we've got now, if we can see, we've got almost a perfect gradient of it being 85% of the way cooked. A little bit of butter. And this is going to be the foundation for the sauce as well. Give it a really gentle base on top. So we're just using that melted butter to almost confit the top, It's not intense, but also the butter gets to a high enough temperature to keep that skin nice and crispy, which is what we really want. So last stage, let's just finish off that crispy skin. You can feel it, it's just super crispy the whole way across. That's exactly what you want. Fish out. Butter slightly higher, add one little knob in. We want this to be basically a golden brown, so they call it nut butter. We're actually going to take it a little bit further than nut brown. So this is the seasoning. I've not added any salt to that pan. So roughly chopped, nice big chunks of anchovy. You're past nut butter and you're into brown butter or burnt butter territory. So turn the pan off. The rest of the sauce is going to happen off the heat. So anchovies go in. Tiny bit of the caper brine goes in with a couple of the capers. A few capers as well. So that brine's just going to bring the temperature down before we add the garlic. Garlic goes in. Finish with lemon juice. Touch of sherry vinegar. And with our parsley. And then this wants to be served really nice and warm and really nice and fresh. Skin is still really crispy. Light drizzle on top, but not too much because you don't want to affect the crispiness of the skin. There we go, super simple fish dish. Making sure you've got the crispiest skin and a really nice acidic burnt butter sauce as well. And it's just this beautiful translucent texture when you perfectly cook fish. Should never be stringy or tough or dry, it should be super moist.